Hello, it's me, Sam Baker. And before we go on with the show, I want to tell you about an exciting new initiative coming from The Shift. Many of you have asked how you can support the podcast further and get more Shift into the bargain. Well, now you have the opportunity to do just that by joining the Shift community. You can go to steady.media/The Shift and become a member of The Shift. In return for supporting the podcast, you'll receive exclusive weekly newsletters, community membership, and plenty of other perks aimed at bringing us all closer together. That's steady.media/The Shift. Hello and welcome to The Shift, the podcast that aims to tell the no-holds-barred truth about being a woman post-40. Created and hosted by me, writer and broadcaster, Sam Baker. Today's guest is one of Britain's best-loved novelists, Lisa Jewell. Her career started with a smash hit debut novel, Ralph's Party, which she started writing as a bet at the age of 27, while she was unemployed and, according to her, totally lacking in direction and ambition. It was the book of the moment, and for 14 novels, it looked like her career, although ticking along nicely, would never hit those heights again. Then her writing took a turn for the dark, and her career took a turn for the stratospheric. Lisa Jewell, it transpired, had a knack for a killer twist. That knack propelled her to the top of the bestseller lists on both sides of the Atlantic, with And Then She Was Gone. That was 6 books ago, and she's never been more successful.
To be suddenly relevant in my 50s, is just not something I would have ever expected, and is absolutely extraordinary, and I'm so grateful.
I went to meet Lisa in her envy-inducing North London home to talk about her latest book, The Family Remains, the debt she owes Bridget Jones, her unexpectedly scary menopause symptoms, testosterone overload, and her extremely proactive ovaries. Plus, she shares her controversial secret to successfully parenting teenage girls. I need to say, because it's a bit of a novelty for me to be in a house with a person, because everything's been Zoom for so long. So I just have to say, Lisa has the most spectacular house. It's gorgeous. I've got a massive house, Andy, and I'm looking out the window onto, is it like one of those like Notting Hill parks out
It is a communal garden, yes. It's 2 acres. It goes all the way, the other end is up by Finchley Road, basically, which is quite hard to imagine.
By Waitrose.
Yes, yeah. Finchley Road is like this massive like arterial road straight into London, full of buses and pollution and what have you.
Different.
But here we are.
Up here.
You wouldn't know it with this 2 acres of weeping willows and what have you.
So would that be the communal garden and the girls?
This is. Well, it's
inspiration.
Inspired, yes. It was inspired by this garden, the one in the girls, yes.
I mean, there are many interesting things about your career, but one of the most interesting things is how you were like one of those annoying, phenomenally successful debut authors, like straight up the top, bang! And then you, I would say plateaued, but you plateaued in a place that most authors would be really, really, really happy to plateau. And now you're like stellar.
Yeah. So
let's start by telling me about the start.
Right.
Because you weren't like a university kid and all of that, were you?
Yeah, I was a very, very unlikely successful debut novelist, or novelist full stop. In fact, I'd always been good at writing, but I certainly wasn't ambitious and I wasn't studious, and I didn't have any goals in life. And so I left school at 16 and went off and did art foundation course at my local college, and then I went off after that and did fashion promotion and communication at an art school in Epsom, which is...
Did you?
Yeah. Which is,
you wanted to be a fashion PR?
I didn't want to be anything. I just had to do something because everybody else was doing something and I didn't know what I wanted to be. I had no clue. So I spent 4 years doing these sort of random arty things, and then ended up working for Warehouse, the high street fashion retailer.
Oh, did you?
In their head office. I worked in their pattern room for a few years. And then, so at the time that I started writing my first novel, I was 27, and I was, after a short period of unemployment, working as a receptionist at a firm of shirt makers in their head office in Battersea. And so that's where I was at when I started writing my first novel.
You were meant to be receptioning?
Right, so the only sort of sign that I might have been about to write a novel at that point in my life as a receptionist in my mid-20s was that I'd done this evening classes in creative writing at the Working Men's College in Camden for fun. It was just fun. And I did do that a bit. at work, because obviously you're sitting there behind your desk with a computer screen in front of you and you can be doing anything really, as long as you answer the phone when it rings. So yes, I did do my homework from that course at work. And then I had this incredibly serendipitous conversation with a girlfriend on holiday in 1995, I think, or 96, about this crazy dream I had of writing a novel one day. And in my head, I'd always thought, well, if I do it, I'll have to, I'm 26, I'm a receptionist, I've had no life experience really. It's the sort of thing that you do when you're middle-aged. So I'd kind of put it over there as I'll do that when I'm middle-aged. And thankfully, this friend I had the conversation with said, no, do it now. And particularly, I just lost that job as well. So I didn't have a job to go to after the holiday that we were on. And so she persuaded me to give it a bash there and then at the tender age with no life experience. And I wrote those 3 chapters just to keep her happy. And those were the first 3 chapters of Rouse Party. So the whole thing was just incredibly unlikely. Nobody who knew me at any point in my short life at that point would have said, oh yeah, you can tell she's on a trajectory to success and literary success.
You didn't have like an in, you didn't like know the right people, you didn't have a mum or dad who knew people. It was like, that was a bit less, I was going to say it's a bit less common when we were 20, but it kind of wasn't, because once I got to London, I just discovered everybody had been to Oxbridge. I didn't even know what Oxbridge was.
Oh yeah. Yeah, did you not go to university?
I did go to university, I went to Birmingham. But
you went to Birmingham, okay, right.
But I didn't know what all that kind of Oxford was.
And it's an extraordinary percentage of the authors that I know did actually go to Oxbridge. It does seem slightly disproportionate. So no, I didn't know anybody in publishing. That I found my agent by buying the Writers and Artists Yearbook and flicking through it and sort of highlighting the ones that I thought might be worth giving a bash. And I sent those 3 chapters out to 10 agents that I found in that book and got 9 rejection letters, which was fine because I genuinely at that point did not think this was a serious undertaking. I didn't actually think I was writing a novel. I thought I'd just written these 3 chapters to keep my friend happy. And it all sort of started at the point at which the 10th letter arrived, and it was an agent saying that she'd be prepared to take it on. And that's when I wrote it. So no, I didn't know anyone. I had no contacts. Yeah, I was just sort of, the world in which I lived didn't contain lots of incredibly influential and powerful people who worked in publishing and had been to Oxbridge at that point. So no, it was all incredibly unlikely and incredibly magical and a bit of a fairy tale, really.
So you wrote Rouse Party and then you wrote 8, 9 in the same sort of vein?
Yes. We can call it chick lit, just for...
I don't like
but
that.
It's nice
that... off, though. Commercial women's fiction, I don't even like that, though.
Do you know what my favourite ever term that somebody used to describe my books was pop fiction? And I loved that.
Pop fiction, yeah.
I liked pop fiction, but it never took off and nobody ever referred to it as pop fiction. It was all lad lit and chick lit and all these really annoying...
But what you wrote, really, with Rouse Party was the equivalent of what lots of young women are doing now that's getting published, like Luster, like What a Shame, like Send Nudes, it was the equivalent at the time. And I don't know, thank God, but I don't see anybody calling those books chick lit or denigrating them in the way that...
That's such a good point. And the covers, the way they're published in such a
like
cool...
proper books. Yeah.
Like they're beautiful to look at and they look like they're worthy of being held in your hands and touched and opened and read. Whereas the way they published those books back in the noughties with these awful pastel tacky cartoon covers that look like children's books, the whole package, the whole way that it was sold into... the world was, they sold very well, these books, but I think it was a bit demeaning, really.
Yeah, well, it's like there's an acceptance now, for whatever reason, that those books might have something to say.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Sally Rooney, for instance. Nobody's saying that Sally Rooney is anything other than a really good writer.
Yes.
And it's not really any different.
She's a writer of her moment, and she's she's sort of journaling in a way what it's like to be that age at this time, and that's exactly what I was doing back in the noughties and late 90s. It was just, this is what it's like being 27 years old and living in London at the tail end of the 90s. This is what it's like. So yes, I think you're right, and it's a weird shift, isn't it? And and that was the other thing. It was like a feeding frenzy at the time. I mean, the publishers back in the early noughties were just throwing money at young women who they thought might be able to recreate this sort of zeitgeisty thing, which I don't think is happening so much now. I think there's much more cherry picking going on. The hunt for the next Sally Rooney, and back then it was the hunt for the new Helen Fielding or whatever it was. Yes. Yeah. Oh God, I mean, this all comes from Bridget Jones. If I'd written my first novel without Bridget Jones ever having been created, I doubt I would have got it published. It was all born from that seed, which, thank you, Helen Fielding.
In a way, I don't know whether this is the right comparison to make, but in a way it's a bit like the very first collection of the Sex and the City columns. Yeah. The first Bridget Jones book in particular. Those books absolutely nailed what it was like to be a certain sort of woman at a certain time.
Yes.
But there's still, I still feel like, despite the fact that Bridget Jones did have like a 25-year programme on BBC Two, there's still a sense that it's a little bit over there.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
It's not Ian McEwan, is it?
No. It's, it is, as they all are, I'm afraid. Commercial women's fiction always suffers from this, and I guess it always will.
It's like, so you basically wrote 8, 9, how many have you written now? Nearly 20 books?
I'm just coming up to the end of writing my 21st, so yeah, and about to publish my 20th. So
there was about 10 in this vein, in the vein-ish of
I would say 7. I would say...
You know better than me.
Yeah, I think I shifted gear around book 8, which I think was The Truth About Melody Brown, which was the first book that I wrote where, in fact, I started writing it assuming that it would have a romance at its core, or a relationship at its core, and I introduced a male and female character to each other in the early chapters. And then about a quarter of the way through, I just thought, this guy is superfluous to the story, he doesn't need to be here. He's almost getting in the way. So I just sort of cut that relationship off.
See ya.
Yeah. Bye. Very nice, man. You're very nice. And maybe we'll have you back in the last chapters, but she needs to get on with this by herself. And yes, so that was, I think, a massive turning point for me. And with everything in my writing, every shift I've made, every movement I've made away from one genre and towards another has been in increments, book by book, and always waiting in a way for someone to say, oh, I didn't like it when you did that, or I preferred what you were doing before, or just suggesting that my evolution as a writer wasn't positive and wasn't good. But that never happened, which was amazing for me, because it meant that I could just keep doing it with every book. I could just think, okay, what can I do that I haven't done before, or what can I bin that I've actually sort of outgrown writing about, and keep reading and keep growing, and my publishers and my readers coming along with me and letting me do it. And I know how fortunate that is, because I know a lot of writers have actually had to bin their writing names and take on pseudonyms and, or go to another publisher to write in a different genre and start afresh. So the fact that I've been able to just very slowly, without anybody really noticing, just sort of keep moving along, and now there's commonality between Ralph's Party and The Family Remains in terms of my voice, but in any other respect, there's just nothing to tie the two books together. It's a completely different type of book.
It's really weird, isn't it? Because when you look at them, obviously it's packaging as well, and they almost could not even be written by the same person. There's such a big leap between, although maybe not quite so much Family Remains, because whilst Family Remains is still a psychological thriller, it's about the family.
It is, and as it was written as a sequel to a book that ended on some very dark notes and with some very dark loose ends that needed tying up, I very much felt that it was my job with this sequel to tie up those loose ends and give people some happy endings and some redemption, which is kind of going back to the sorts of books I was writing slightly earlier in my career. Is I was always, with my earlier books, heading for that happy ending. Had to have a happy ending, which is something I've been able to sort of
get rid of.
Yes, get rid of over the last few books. And it's like, it doesn't matter if that person's still
sod the joy.
Yeah, sod the joy. Yes, and yes. So I think you're right in a way that maybe there's more commonality between The Family Remains and Rouse Party than my other thrillers because of that sort of having to tie it all up at the end.
So was psychological the move into? They're not really psychological thrillers. I've seen you compared to Barbara Vine more than Ruth Rendell,
yes.
And you have become the kind of author that has books written about your work, Lisa Jewell.
Well, I don't know if I've become the type of author, but someone perceived me as the type of author.
I am holding a book called The Truth About Lisa Jewell, and an academic followed you for an entire year to follow your writing process, which as a writer was really fascinating. But I actually do think, and I'm not saying this because anybody's given me any money, I do think that if you're a fan of Lisa Jewell, you'll find this book absolutely fascinating. And as you said before we started recording, it is as readable. I mean, not really quite as readable as Lisa Jewell, but it's really readable. I mean, like shots
it's a quick read.
Underlining things and scribbling and Jem angry after the party. Let's do that first, actually, before we talk about how you became Lisa Jewell in like capital letters with exclamation mark. Let's talk about After the Party, because I think it was quite unique in that it was a really angry book.
That's you've read that book, so you know something of the background to that.
Yeah, but I do, but they don't.
Yes, exactly. So God, this was my greatest misstep personally, I feel, as a writer. I was at my previous publisher, Penguin, and having been their golden debut star author and had that experience, I could just tell that the sales were going down and they weren't building me, and I didn't seem to have a sense of excitement anymore about my books. And I kind of wanted to get the love back a bit. And in a meeting, I stupidly said something that I'd been thinking of vaguely, but I hadn't actually decided I wanted to do it. I said, it's the 10th anniversary of Rouse Party coming up. I could write a sequel. Maybe.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Schoolgirl error.
And of course, the minute I said that, they were, yes, do that, absolutely do that. And the minute they said, yes, do that, I thought, but I don't want to do that. I actually don't want to write a sequel to Rouse Party, but it was too late by then. I'd said it was out, and I had to do it. And this was at the point in my own life where I had a baby and a toddler and issues with my marriage to the father of that baby and that toddler. And I thought, okay, what I can do is maybe take Ralph and Jem from Rouse Party and use them to explore some of these issues I'm currently dealing with, and make it sort of a big roar of a book about what it's like when your partner lets you become a housewife, and where you're trying to balance everything out, but everything comes back to you ultimately as the woman and as the mother, and all that resentment that builds up in marriages at this point in the child rearing years. I thought, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to make it that.
So how old were you then? Late 30s?
So I had my second child when I was 38. So let us assume I was, late 30s, possibly pushing 40. And it's a weird book, and I didn't quite know what I was doing with it, but I knew that I was getting a lot of my feelings and a lot of my emotions and a lot of anecdotal stuff in there. I was sliding a lot of anecdotal stuff in there about resentment and what have you. And then I gave it to my editor at the time, who was also had very young children and a husband who, I don't know if she hated him, but I assumed she did, because we all hated our husbands at that point. And expected her to sort of say, wow, this is so raw, this is so real, female readers are going to absolutely love this. But she went Team Ralph.
It wasn't your brand. Oh, she went Team Ralph.
Yeah, she was like, Jem comes across as very hard to relate to. She's quite unlikable. And she went through and toned down every single angry, furious, raging, roaring, resentment-filled thought that Jem had, and made me just take all of that out of it. So it's interesting that you think it was still an angry book.
Yeah, I do think it was still angry, but I can see what you mean. I can see that it's more suppressed.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting because what we were talking about earlier about, books by older Gen Z, young millennial women, they're allowed to be angry.
Yes.
I mean, I think we're all allowed to write angrier books with less likeable characters than we used to be.
Yeah.
But I wonder now whether you would have really been able to write the book you wanted to write.
Yeah.
And tell the truth about, being the one stuck with all the childcare and...
Or just how, I am a congenitally lazy, filthy slattern by nature. That is how, left to my own devices.
Have you got a cleaner then?
I have a cleaner.
I was going to say.
Yeah. I tidied up for you. I absolutely tidied up for you, I can assure you. So left to my own devices, that's probably how I would live. If nobody ever came to my house and I lived alone, I would live in squalor. But you can't do that when you've got a family and children and what have you. And it was that sort of fury at the fact that if somebody has to take on the housewife role, it has to be the woman. And then you become the woman who's nagging and sort of getting cross about things being left out, and I'm not that person, but somebody has to be that person. And I think that really tipped me over during those years of like, okay, I have to make these people inside my body and then push them out and then feed them from my body, and I have to keep them clean, and I have to also pay for everything as I was the main breadwinner. And also worry about the fact my husband doesn't think he's getting enough sex, and just the whole kit and caboodle. And
couldn't have been further down your list of priorities.
I could tell you some things, but anyway, I shan't.
Damn.
Yeah, and just that awful feeling of like, oh my God, I'm a housewife. I was never put on this earth to be a housewife. This isn't who I am, but I haven't got any choice in that.
Was that your first marriage or your second?
No, this is yes. No, my first marriage was like a starter marriage in my early 20s. It was all over by the time I was 25. So no, this is the now marriage, which is actually fine now.
Oh,
yes.
So you're still married. So it's...
Oh, yeah. Oh, I made it sound like we must absolutely have got a divorce after that. No.
I missed a marriage in there.
No. There were no children involved in the first marriage. No, this is...
So you got through it?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just really interested in that kind of 40s thing. At what point did you start to come out of it, or did you go into menopause at the point when you had teenage daughters and it all, or what was the process?
Well, for me, it has absolutely been, because not only am I not a natural housewife, I'm not a natural mother. I am a natural mother. I'm a brilliant mother. But I don't like babies and children. I liked my babies and my children, but I don't actually like them. And at every point in their development, I would, rather than weeping over the things I'd lost and, I don't read bedtime stories for my child anymore. I'm like, yay, I don't have to read them bedtime stories. Or, I really miss sitting in the bathroom with them and like washing their hair for them. Yay, they can wash their own hair. Yeah. So for me, it was this very gradual process of every time my child became more independent and I had to do less for them and I could leave the house without having to organise a babysitter or ask my husband to be here. That was it. It was just my children set me free really by growing up. So yeah, it was always going to happen, and I absolutely love parenting teenagers. I just think it's the best thing in the world, and this is a bit I'm going to miss when they're gone. I'm not going to miss any of that small kid stuff. I don't like small kids, they're annoying. I will miss this bit of rattling around a house with these incredibly interesting people with their chaotic lives. And
how old are they now?
They are 15 and about to turn 19, and they're just...
So what's been the experience of having teenage daughters with their hormones and their great bodies and their...
Yeah. I have just loved every second of it, from the moment they sort of transitioned from... these kind of, they're really awkward teenagers. They're the worst. Teenagers are the worst. And from the minute they blossomed out of the teenage years and into the teenage years, about 13, 14, and they actually, they physically match what's going on in their heads. You can have a proper conversation with them. I mean, it's such a sort of cliche, isn't it? The fact that, particularly if you have your children a little later, as we do these days, that you are going through menopause at the same time as your daughters are going through puberty, and then there's going to be this awful clash of hormones in the house, and that poor husband would probably want to move out because all the fireworks are going to be going off left, right and centre. It just wasn't like that. I met a woman at a party many years ago when my girls were tiny, and she told me she had 4 teenage daughters in the house. And I said, oh my God, the classic reaction, that must be awful. She said, you know what, it really isn't awful. She said, the secret to living with teenage girls is to let them do whatever they want and be nice to them all the time. And that is what I've done with my girls. I've given them ultimate freedom to go off and make mistakes and be dreadful and do, whatever it is that they want to do, knowing that they have this incredibly functional, solid, loving, nurturing home to come back to. And it doesn't matter how they're talking to me, I will talk to them nicely. I don't raise my voice to them. I tell them I love them the whole time. I'm just this sort of big, soft, absorbent cushion in their world. And it doesn't for a minute suggest that my girls are perfect not for even a second, but it does mean that home life is really nice, it's really harmonious. They really appreciate me and they appreciate being at home and they like being here and they're not forever trying to sort of get out of this hellhole. So it worked for the woman I met at the party many years ago. And it's working for me. So we've sort of avoided this awful clash of the older woman and the teenage girl that can happen. And I think we're through the sort of the worst possible points in the process now. So I think if it hasn't happened now, it won't happen, I think. Pretty sure, anyway.
Yeah,
it's been good.
They're 15 and 19
then. Yeah. It's been good. I've really enjoyed it and I'm still enjoying it, and I'm really enjoying watching how they evolve with this incredibly, I think, slightly controversial parenting that I've given them, which with the older girls certainly it appears to be paying dividends, because she's just gone from being the ultimate pain in the backside to being just this awesome, glorious, sort of slightly ethereal girl who is just incredible company and goes out in the world and is nice to people and does good things and spends her time in interesting ways. And so we shall see.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I may be able to listen to this back in 10 years' time and think, what a fool! It's sort of like both my children have gone completely off the rails at the age of 30. But
we'll go back to the book in a minute. But where were you menopausally?
Okay, so I am currently 53. I'm about to turn 54.
You're a July baby too, aren't you?
I'm a July baby, yes. And so I felt very, very non-perimenopausal for most of my 40s. Even into my late 40s, I would feel very much like I could get pregnant and have a baby. I just very much felt like my body hadn't changed and my reproductive system was still operating in the same way, and I was still full of the same hormones and chemicals and what have you. And then I would say I didn't get any of the sort of classic menopausal symptoms. I didn't get hot flashes or brain fog or bad tempers or sleeplessness. I didn't get the insomnia.
Oh, God, you're jammy.
But what I did get, and I'm kind of really grateful that it happened this way, because it sent me to the hormone doctor, because what actually happened to me was really like sort of scary and awful. So I would have probably just soldiered on with my hot flashes and my, and this is a very common symptom of menopause, but people don't really talk about it very much, is I started getting very irregular heart beats and dizziness off the scale, particularly in the morning. So I'd get out of bed in the morning and the whole room would be spinning around my head. I'd have to hold onto the wall coming down the stairs on a really rocky boat, and that was happening every morning. And I was getting these irregular heartbeats the whole time, and then the one that actually tipped me over the edge was one that went on for an hour, and I thought I was going to have to call an ambulance.
Oh my God, scary.
And it wasn't a panic attack. I've had panic attacks and I know the difference between a panic attack and what was happening to me. It was purely physical. And yes, I just managed to sort of pull it back from the point at which I was going to call an ambulance to take me to the hospital, because I thought I was dying. And I had a friend who'd just been to a private hormone doctor on Harley Street, of course. So I went to see her.
So why did you go to her and not the doctor?
Oh, good question. Good question. I think because I could afford to. And because at that point, this was like 3 years ago, even 3 years ago, it just felt like less of something that you should bother your doctor with.
But how did you know that it was to do with your hormones?
Oh, because I Googled it.
Oh, of course,
Yes.
Dr. Google told you.
Yes, Dr. Google said this is a fairly, not well known but common symptom of menopause. So I went to this lovely lady in Harley Street, and she prescribed me patches. And she also prescribed me, very interesting, I don't know if you've come upon this with anybody else you've spoken to about this, testosterone.
It's people are starting to talk about that much more. I mean, it's still practically impossible to get on the NHS. But,
you have to pay for it. Yeah. But, it's like, it's £100 for a canister, but the canister lasts you for 6 months.
Yeah, but, interesting tip, that's the women's one.
Yes, the women's one.
So if you get the men's one and don't just use smaller quantities, it costs you about £14. How fucking typical is that?
Oh, you're kidding me.
I only know this.
Where'd you get it from?
You just get them to prescribe it to you. I only know this because I was literally prescribed it yesterday and told that by my doctor, my gynaecologist.
Why is the lady one so expensive?
Because it's pink.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if it's pink, but you know what I mean. And it's it's bigger quantities, because obviously you need bigger quantities. So you have to regulate it yourself, which is the difference. Yes. But it's literally a tenth of the price.
Oh, that's very interesting. And really, really helpful. I would very much advocate for the use of testosterone in menopausal women. It is very...
Really, was that? So you had the estrogen patches.
So the estrogen patches, which I went and collected from the pharmacy the minute I left her clinic, and slapped one on, and within 24 hours the dizziness had gone, and so had the irregular heartbeats had gone as well. It was instantaneous. It was absolutely extraordinary. Wow. And the testosterone... I would say, because of course all these hormones work in conjunction with your own hormones.
Yeah.
So there are times when some of the symptoms come back a bit, because clearly the estrogen in the patches was enough to counterbalance whatever it was that was causing my palpitations and dizziness, because I'm still making estrogen. But if I go through a phase where my body's making much less estrogen than it usually does, the patch doesn't quite make up for that shortfall, and then I can get little dizzy patches. But I know it'll all be over in a week once my natural estrogen levels pop up again. And it's the same with the testosterone. Women's testosterone production peaks at 25 and then starts going downhill. So this is what I tell my daughters. It's like, you're actually, that's when you're at your most sort of kind of shag obsessed, sex obsessed as a woman. This is why teenagers shouldn't be having sex, because then the teenage girls are not making any testosterone, which means that they're not actually having any fun or wanting to do it, because they don't actually have a sex drive. Teenage girls, I'm sure there are teenage girls out there who would disagree, but so the testosterone builds up in young women. So by the time they're my older daughter's age, they're starting to
appreciate it.
Yes, probably starting to be a little bit more sort of proactive in I'm feeling horny, I really would like to have sex now, rather than maybe if I sleep with him then X, Y or Z might happen, and then it falls off a little bit after the age of 25. So basically God's design is that you should be shagging between the ages of 20 and 25 and having your babies then.
Having your babies and then you can just pop off.
And then, exactly. But you do still make testosterone as a woman, even at our age. And I think what happened when I started taking testosterone is that for some reason, I had quite a lot in my system, and I had this sort of testosterone overdose, I would say, which was very, very, very dramatic. And I keep thinking I'd like to write a piece for Medium about it or something, about how it felt. It was about 2 weeks where I was just off my tits on testosterone.
You can write a guest piece for the shift if you like.
And I just thought, oh my God, I think I know what it feels like to be a man. I was just, my eyes were on stalks everywhere I was going. I was looking at young men, probably looking at them in a really creepy way that would have made them feel uncomfortable if they'd seen me. I was thinking about sex all the time.
So that was how your own testosterone production was combined
with this newly introduced testosterone from the tube that is like a gel, and you rub it onto your skin. So for 2 weeks I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. This is what it must be like to be a man. How awful. No wonder they always
how they are.
And I did wonder if I would stick with it, if that's what the rest of my life was going to be like. But whatever happened, it faded away, and now it's just this very sort of neutral thing, and I put it on twice a week. And what it is actually supposed to do, rather than giving you the horn and making you stare in an unsettling way at young men, is it's just supposed to maintain your focus, and it's that brain fog thing. It's supposed to counteract the sort of brain fog and keep you sharp and keep you on point and what have you. And I certainly don't feel like I've been suffering from any sort of brain fog or
no, and that brain fog thing is a complete pain. I mean, mine's not too bad now, but it used to be really, really bad. My gynaecologist said to me yesterday, actually, she said that one of the reasons she uses it is to do with strength.
Yes, that's
another muscle strength.
Of course, muscles as well. Yes, absolutely. Because...
And that, when you start to see people get spindly little legs.
Yes. The little old lady legs. Yes, it's for all sorts of things. It is for all sorts of things. And I haven't tried not using it, so I don't know if I would notice any differences if I stopped using it. But yes, so I do still, because I don't know if I'm assuming it's because I use the estrogen patches, I do still have a monthly period of sorts, but sort of very kind of old lady periods, I would say.
Good, I haven't had a period for years. It's great.
Yes. Although the flip side to not having a period is not ovulating, and I've always enjoyed ovulation. There's always...
How did you know?
I just feel more sort of zingy and alive, and sort of walk around kind of feeling a little bit more plugged into the world and more aware of men and certain different energies.
You had very proactive ovaries, didn't you?
Yeah. Possibly, yeah. So I've always enjoyed ovulation, particularly since I stopped being a young woman and stopped making testosterone. I've always enjoyed that sort of 4 or 5 days every month where I felt a bit more like, hey, let's get out there.
That is so interesting. When I was at the gynaecologist yesterday, she was like, oh, let's have a little look in there. Like, here we go. And it's the same gynaecologist who I love and consider a complete lifesaver, but did once give me an ultrasound and say to me, when we were considering whether or not I needed a hysterectomy because I had endometriosis and adenomyosis and God knows what else. And she went in and she was like, oh no, there's no need, you're almost out of eggs.
Oh.
So God love her, like I was a fridge. She is the most amazing woman, and I'm conscious she might listen to this at some point. But yesterday she did say to me, yeah, and your left ovary is... And I was like, the word you're looking for is withering, isn't it?
Oh.
She was like, I was trying to avoid the word. I was like, it's okay, I know they're not doing anything more, but there was the evidence on the ultrasound. I could see that it was shrinking.
Your withered ovary.
It was literally...
Yes.
It was packed.
As its function declined and its use.
It's done here.
Yeah.
There's no need.
Yes, bye.
It's like, I guess, like on a tree when you get those like seed pods that eventually wither and drop off.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's going to drop off.
I don't think it'll drop off, but yes. Oh, bless.
Yeah, you don't
bless
come to this
your left ovary.
You don't come to this podcast for gynecological accuracy. It's like, that's so interesting.
Yes, I feel like I've had quite an interesting menopausal journey.
Yeah, and a bit different as well.
A bit different,
I
absolutely.
like that, a little bit different.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it could still. I know a friend who went through the whole of perimenopause without a hot flash, and then reached menopause, as in hadn't had a period for a year, and then started getting hot flashes after her.
Oh, that's different.
So I'm not out of the woods yet, but I feel like if this is it, if this is going to happen in the next year or so, I'm going to stop having periods and actually go into menopause, then it's been okay, really. It's been okay.
Could be worse.
Yeah.
Apart from the scary I'm dying palpitations.
Oh, the bit where I thought I was going to die, yes, that was a low. But
I'm really interested in the way that once a lot of women, not all women, get into their late 40s or early 50s, it completely also changes their approach to work and what they're doing, and might get more driven or get more fuck you, or, you know, just like, I'm not going to do that anymore, I want to do that. How, if at all, does that fit in with what's happened in your work? Because you have gone stratospheric in the last 6 years.
So that's the thing, and it's a chicken and egg thing, because I have no idea if the reason why my recent work has been so successful and my career has just lit up like a sort of a golden sun suddenly is because of my age, or if the fact that I am going through this amazing golden time and everything is you know, I'm in this period of great success, is making it so much easier to deal with the fact that I'm getting older and things are changing and what have you. And I don't know if I'd be struggling more with things and feeling less confident, because I feel incredibly confident at the moment, and physically as well. There's nothing, you know, there's nothing great going on with me physically. I've got nothing to be excited about. I haven't been to the gym for 6 years. I don't do any exercise. I'm not fit. Underneath this, you know, this nice outfit I'm wearing is just, nobody wants to see that. But I don't care. I don't care. I genuinely don't give a shit. And sometimes my daughter will look at me in disgust and say, oh, I don't ever want to get old, if I'm like standing there in my underwear.
Oh, thanks.
I don't care though. I just like, enjoy your beautiful body, enjoy. And I really hope that by the time you're 54 and it's all droopy and stuff, that you feel as happy about it as I do, because I just don't care. I just want to wake up every morning. I want to have a nice day. I want to enjoy being with my family. I want to take my dog for a lovely walk. I want to get some work done. I want to get on top of my emails and then go to bed again. And I don't care what my bum looks like, or the fact that my jowls have started drooping, or that I just don't care.
I'm scrutinising and I can't see any jowls.
No, they're little. No, it is a bit jowly. But I feel like I should care, but I don't. I'm just too happy with the way things are in my life at the moment. I'm so happy living with my teenage girls. I'm so happy with the way my career is going, and the work that I'm doing, and it's all good. It's all good. So I don't know if I'm a bad person to talk to, because for all of this, and this is, I mean, I just think it's awesome that you can, as a middle-aged woman, suddenly hit a golden seam at the age of whatever I was when this all started really taking off, I guess 49.
Which was the first one that really...
Then she was gone. That was the thing. I remember there was this moment...
5 years? 6 now?
Must be 5 or 6 years ago. I was sitting in the Cafe Nero on the Finchley Road writing one afternoon, and the galleys of Then She Was Gone had just gone out on NetGalley, which is a early reviewer website where you can get early PDFs of books and then you leave a review. And the first review dropped, and I had that sort of sick feeling in my stomach because it was such a crazy book. And I'd never had a customer review like it. It didn't bear any reflection to any Amazon review or Goodreads review or newspaper review or anything I'd ever had for any of my books before. This woman was just... She was just in this complete state of shock and awe and emotion and crying and all of the above, and I just felt like, oh my God, I've written this book and it seems to have completely had this sort of transformative effect on this reader. And that was the moment. I honestly, if I think back to from writing the lovely books I was writing, everybody saying, oh, you've written a lovely book, oh, it's sold X amount of copies, write us another lovely book. And feeling like I was in this sort of like, you know, here goes another year, write another book, sells the same amount of copies as the last one, all lovely, everybody likes me, everybody's happy, but maybe I'm never going to write my breakout book. Maybe I'm never going to write the book that sort of, you know, changes everything up a gear.
And so maybe you'd had your book.
Had my book, precisely. Precisely. I thought I've had my book, and a lot of people don't get that, and I was lucky to have that, and that was amazing. That was magical, and I look back at it with stars in my eyes just thinking about it. But exactly, I thought I've run out of chances to have that happen again, you know. And then I read that review and I thought, oh, okay, this could be different. This could be something really different. And so it was. And Then She Was Gone it went on the Richard and Judy list. It sold really well. I'd never cracked the top 5 before, and I think that went in at number 3 4. Anyway, it was incredible. But the amazing thing with that book was that it cracked America for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's and now you like top the bestseller list there too, don't you?
Only with that book. And perception is very interesting. Once you've been number 1 in the New York Times bestsellers, people just assume that all your books are in there. But no, it was only that book. No other book has ever done.
In my head, it's The Family Upstairs that's the big success.
That was huge here. It was quite big in America. I think it spent a couple of weeks in the top 10 and then slipped out again. But it was massive here, and it sold. It was like one of the big lockdown hits. It sold massive amounts during the first lockdown. And so that was it. And then it's just been this incredible sort of like slow march over the next few years up this lovely sunshiny hill, just sort of with every book thinking, okay, that was fun, but can this be maintained? Is this all going to go back down to the bottom of the hill again? But it just seems to keep building, and just to be at my age and to be building a readership of brand new, fresh, shiny readers and young readers as well, and to be perceived, to use the word of the parlance of the young, to be relevant.
Oh, yes, yeah.
To be relevant, suddenly relevant in my 50s, is just not something I would have ever expected, and is absolutely extraordinary. And I'm so grateful and so delighted. I kind of don't want it to go on for too long though. I've got this lovely sort of feeling about the other side of the hill now, where I can just sort of like very, very slowly trot off the other side of the hill and start writing books that aren't quite so massive publishing deal every time, because it really takes it out of you. I mean, you've spoken to enough writers and you've been through it yourself, how much work is involved in promoting a book.
It almost becomes bigger than writing the book.
Exactly.
Especially when you're big internationally,
yes.
which you are.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, so it's happening on both sides of the pond, the same amount of work. So, but this has been glorious, and I'd like to keep this up for another 2 or 3 books, and then just slowly start to kind of become more of a older lady writer. I don't know. Just
it's going to enter your fourth
my fourth
stage being Anita Bruckner or somebody.
Exactly. That's the plan anyway.
Before I ask you the questions I always ask at the end, you've got to tell me about the 5-2 diet.
Oh, okay.
I've always been fascinated by the 5-2 diet, but I've got no discipline, so... And I know we don't say the word diet, but 5-2 eating plan. 5-2
eating plan. Let's call it that. So I used to go to the gym a lot, and then I stopped, and I didn't want to go back. I just thought, that's it.
Was that an age thing?
It was habitual going to the gym. I never enjoyed it. I didn't like the people there. I hated everything about it, but I did it. And then there was one summer where I couldn't get, I don't know, the children were at that age where I couldn't leave them, but I couldn't put them anywhere, and I just thought, I had to write a book, and I just thought something's got to give, and it'll be the gym. And come the end of the summer when they went back to school, I was just like, I don't want to go there. I don't ever want to go there again. I'm done. So I don't know if it was age. It was just like I broke the habit, and I just thought no. And it's 2 hours out of my day that I've got back. 2 hours out of my day every day that I've got back for myself. But of course, my body was used to me burning a certain amount of calories, and then it stopped, and I started putting on a bit of weight and
muscle, I guess.
And lost muscle. And I just thought, I want to do something. I hate calorie counting. I hate not being able to eat whatever I want to eat. I want to have chocolate in the house. I want to eat biscuits. I want to drink beer. I want to go and have a curry on a Friday night and not think twice about it. I don't want to have a restricted diet. That's just... I couldn't live like that. And so I thought I'd try it, the 5-2, and it just stuck. I just find it so easy. I'm on a fast day today, and my stomach is rumbling while I'm talking to you. It's just empty and growling. So I'll just have a can of Diet Coke or something.
So how does that work? You do 5 days where you eat what you want?
You can't eat... Well, my husband does it as well, and he eats whatever he wants on his non-fast days, but he's very muscly, so he burns fat more easily than I do. He's much more efficient, metabolically speaking, than I am, so he can do that. But actually, the way you're supposed to do it is on your fast days, you don't eat more than 500 calories, and on your non-fast days, you work out using a calculator what your daily calorific output is, based on your age and your level of exercise and what have you. and you eat that. So I burn apparently 1,560 calories a day.
Yeah.
And that's what I should eat. I shouldn't eat any
not
less
that
because you
much,
don't want
is
to rob your body of calories more than twice a week, because then it goes into that mode of storing up the fat because it thinks that there's a drought and what have you. So I do try and stick to sort of 1,500 calories a day, apart from at the weekends.
But
where
that's still not very much.
It's just fine though. It is genuinely fine. And this is something like, once I decoupled myself from my husband's eating, we don't eat together ever unless we're in a restaurant. Once I decoupled myself from him, it's just so easy. And I eat at 5. I don't want to eat at 8 o'clock. I don't want to go to bed with a stomach. I wonder if that rumble will have made it to your microphone.
It doesn't matter if it has.
I don't want to go to bed with a stomach full of food. I want to have digested it by the time I get into bed. So that, I find it really easy. 500 calories for breakfast, 500 calories for lunch, 500 calories for dinner. If I go out, then sod it. I'll just eat and drink whatever I want. But yeah, I don't find it. It just works for me. And if it means I don't have to go to the gym ever again as long as I live, then I love it.
Good point. Right. Questions I always ask. What's your emotional age?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think I'm emotionally incredibly mature. So I'm going to say my emotional age is 53. You're looking at me and I can't tell whether you're thinking she's deluding herself if she thinks that.
No, I'm not at all. I love this question so much. It's so fascinating.
Do you get completely different answers every time? Do you ever get people saying they're emotionally 16?
Often.
Oh, really?
Often.
Wow.
And it's not always people with unresolved trauma either, although it is often people with unresolved trauma. I feel very much my age as well.
I feel every year of my life I've grown a little bit wiser and a little bit calmer and a little bit more sensible and a little bit more measured and a little bit able to deal with everything that life throws at me.
Cool. Give us a book recommendation. So it can be one of those, this is my desert island book, or it can be, I've just read this book and it's great.
Okay, I am going to give you a desert island book, which is The Stopped Heart by Julie Myerson.
Is that the ghosty one?
Yes, have you read it?
I have read it, yeah. Oh. But go on.
So it's about this couple who've experienced the most unbelievable trauma, which is not laid out until quite late in the book. And they escape London and they move into this cottage in Suffolk, I think it is, in order to recover and grieve. And then there's a backstory of a family 100 years earlier also living in the same cottage in Suffolk, and they're a very poor family. They've got loads and loads of children, like dirty feet, dirty hands. The teenagers look after the babies. There's animals wandering around the house, and one night a man with red hair appears in the middle of a thunderstorm on their doorstep. The family invite him in to live with them, and from the minute he walks in through the front door of that cottage, everything is dark and twisted and really, really...
You're saying it with such relish.
Oh, it's so good.
What advice would you give younger women?
I think something that's always helped me in life, and more so now than ever, is not being an overthinker. But how can you tell someone not to be an overthinker when they're an overthinker? Yeah. And youth is just supremely designed to cause massive amounts of overthinking. But if you can just get through life and just make decisions quite quickly and trust your instincts, that's massively important, to just trust your instincts. The one time I overrode my own instincts, I ended up married to the wrong man for 5 years because I didn't listen to my instincts. So if your inner voice is telling you not to do something, or that somebody's a bad person, or there are red flags up, just trust your instincts, I think, because they're usually right.
On the subject of that relationship, I also had a similar relationship to that when I was younger than you and didn't marry him, luckily. He was coercive controlling, wasn't he?
Yes, he was coercive controlling, yeah.
How has that impacted you, do you think?
There were just so many things that happened in the 5 years that I was with him, that when I finally got out the other side and through the door and back out into the real world, away from this prison, I just thought, I now know what I'm never going to do again. I'm never going to put somebody else's feelings above mine. I'm never going to worry about, I'm never going to let myself believe that I'm the only thing that stands between another human being and oblivion. I'm never going to be a people pleaser. I think I stopped being a people pleaser because it was being a people pleaser that got me into that relationship in the first place and kept me there for so long. I went straight from that marriage into a relationship with Yasha, my husband, and I was a completely different person when I went into that relationship with Yasha to the person who'd gone into the relationship 5 years earlier with my first husband, because it was just like, I'd just drawn lines in my life, just that's never happening again. I'm never going to be like that again. I'm never going to behave this way again or allow this to happen again. So it was instantaneous from the minute I walked out of that marriage, and I've taken those lessons with me and stuck with them. And I'm always going to trust my own instincts in the future. And the minute I saw that guy the first time, I just thought, no, you're not right for me. And I overrode every single instinct I had about him until I found myself trapped in a house with him 5 years later. So,
was that because you were flattered?
In a way, in a way, I just I'd got to that point in my, I'd been in a 2-year relationship, and I was ready to settle down at 20. I was done. I was ready to settle down, and then that relationship ended, and then I was just desperate to find someone to settle down with. But of course, 20 years old in London on the clubbing scene, I didn't have that sort of social life that led me to meeting pools of lovely young men who wanted to settle down too. And it was the fact that he was just absolutely up for it and putting an engagement ring on my finger and wanting to eschew everything else out there, all the other worldly freedoms of being a young person in London. No, let's not do any of those things. Let's just settle down, you and I, and get a nice little house in the suburbs. And so he gave me exactly what I wanted, but I found that I didn't actually want that at all.
So interesting, isn't it? So interesting, those things that you can now see that are red flags that at the time
there wasn't, so that term didn't exist. Red flags didn't exist as a term. Coercive control didn't exist as a term, and it certainly wasn't illegal. But so I didn't actually kind of understand what I was walking into, and until it was way too late. And it was horrible. It was a really, really horrible 5 years. But it's given me plenty to write about.
Yeah, it has. You do write about it quite a lot.
I do write about coercive control quite a lot in all sorts of different relationships, not just romantic relationships and marriages, but yes, it's something I keep returning to because it's a fascinating concept that someone can make you stay when you don't want to stay, and you're not tied down to a chair with a piece of rope. You're literally free to leave anytime you like, and you don't. Tied by kids, or it's just a sheer force of will thing. Yes.
And you're not necessarily a person who doesn't have your own will.
Yeah.
You're not a pushover.
No. Exactly. Pushover. That's what's so bizarre about it. You assume that anybody who lets themselves be dragged into a situation like that must be fundamentally weak.
Well, I think at that point, when you were going through it, and for me as well earlier, that was the thought. That was the social understanding around that. It's like, why did you stay?
Yeah.
It's like, but now if people say that, it's a bit like, wake up, smell the coffee.
Exactly.
It's
people
recognise.
It's been a storyline in so many sort of popular radio shows, TV shows, films, and what have you. And it's always in the papers, and it is a crime. We now know it's a crime as well. That people are much more understanding when it's not. I was going to say women find themselves in that situation. It's not just women who find themselves in that situation, but people. Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Who's your old bird role model?
Do you know, who was I thinking about the other day? And I was thinking, that is life goals right there. I want to be that person. And when you say old bird, you mean like 10
Just
years?
Older than you.
Older than me.
It doesn't really matter how old.
Oh my God, who was it that I was thinking of? Oh, I don't know. I see women all the time who I just find inspiring and awesome, and think that's the direction I'd like to be going off in. I'd like to look like that. I'd like to act like that. I'd like to have that amount of energy, that amount of positivity. And I can't think of any of them now that you've put me on the spot.
Oh, well, if it comes back to you in the next couple of minutes.
If it comes back to me in the next couple of minutes, I will throw it at you.
What's your superpower?
I think staying calm, Just staying calm and being grounded and still and solid. All of those things. They don't sound like very superpowers, but they feel very, very important, particularly at sort of this stage of life where teenage children getting older and my career being quite demanding.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think, stillness.
Like a still
Yeah.
strong core.
Exactly.
And how many fucks do you give?
Oh, none of any description. Not a solitary one. No. And isn't it marvellous? It's just like, honestly, and nothing winds me up more than seeing people giving too many fucks as well. I just want to go up to them and just say, just drop the fucks. You don't need them. Just.
Any old bird role model come to you?
Oh God. Oh, that's very frustrating. I'm so terrible at thinking of things on the spur of the moment. So I'm amazed I managed to think of a book. No, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
I'm sorry. That's really,
brilliant.
really
Thank you.
hopeless of me. But there you go. Sorry.
No, it's not hopeless at all. Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you for having me in your lovely living room.
Oh, thank you for coming. Thank you for being a lovely conversationalist.
Thank you for listening. You can hear a new episode of The Shift each Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you hear, please do rate, review and follow, because it really does help other people find us. And if you'd like to support The Shift further, please consider becoming a member of our community. Find out more at steady.media/The Shift.